All right, good morning, everyone. Let's begin the day by giving charity like we've done before. And charity will save, the Jewish people will be gathered together in the merit of charity. Charity saves from death and for sure things that are worse than death. And God should protect all of our soldiers. He should bring Moshiach now, change the Israeli government and wake up all the Jews in the world. And it's happening gradually, but let's make it happen quicker. It should be only good news for the whole world. Now, let's go. We've learned up to now the first Rebbe of Chabad explanation on a sentence in this Torah, in this week's Torah portion, Akiv, about the blessing after eating. You know, the blessing after eating, there's three, it's three blessings that we say. Three blessings that we say. And the first one was from the Torah. The Torah tells us that we have to, it says, V'achalta v'savata v'verachta. That's the first blessing. And Hashem elachech ala oretz. That's going into the land of Israel. Atova is Jerusalem. Is in Jerusalem. So it says Moses made the first blessing. He made the wording of the first blessing. Joshua made the blessing of the wording of the second blessing. And King David, he made the blessing, the third blessing on Jerusalem. Made the third. David, King Solomon. So we explained this now. What does it mean to us? Moses made the first blessing when after eating the manna, when the manna fell in the desert. So Moses made the first blessing. What's this got to do with us today? That we're acknowledging how much God is helping us. Manna is something that came for free from heaven. And that's what's happening now all the time to us also. God is giving us energy, blessing, power, encouragement, inspiration, and simply help to do our job. What's our job? The job of the Jewish people is to perfect the world, to make the physical world perfect. That's our job. That was the job of Adam. That's our job. But it's a very difficult job. And so God helps us. God helps us. So that's the first blessing. It's like the manna that fell from heaven, just fell from free. It's like Moses. Everything he did was just to bring down free gifts. Got the Jews out of Egypt, brought us the Torah. Empowering. Second blessing is made by Joshua when the Jews went into the land of Israel. That's also after eating, but different type of bread. That's bread that came from the earth. They had to work. They had to work hard. And they had to plow, they had to plant, they had to harvest, and they had to grind the flour, sift the flour, all the processes necessary in order to make bread. Bread is possibly the most complicated food to make, but it's the most nourishing. You have to plan to kill animals. You just have to kill animals. It's not that easy. But on the other hand, it's not as difficult as making bread. Bread is a long process. Bread is a long process. All the other vegetables also, you just eat them. That's all. Bread, no, you have to plow. You have to plant. You have to the wheat grows up, and you can't eat wheat. Then you have to process it. You have to grind it. You have to sift it. You have to bake it, knead it, and bake it. And those are all processes that we do. So that's the second blessing. The second blessing is that we can start serving God. We're not just receiving free gifts like it was in the desert. We're serving God from below to above. And if you remember, there was all these Kabbalistic terms that were used in order to explain what exactly goes on. We said there was the Sag and Ma and Ban. Remember that? Sag and Ma and Ban. And we said that there's also the Mayan Nukvin, man, and mein duchri mad. Remember all those strange terms. So these are talking about what God does, and the other are talking about what we do, generally speaking. That God made a confusing world. That is Sag. That's his aspect of Sag. 60. The Sag is the gematria of 63. Samach Gimel. That's one name of God. We talked about it. How you spell phonetically the numerical value of spelling God's name. God's name is Yud, and then Hey Vav, and then Hey 26. And how you fill up the letters, that gives you these different gematrias. But it's not just parlor games that we're just impressing people with our Kabbalistic terms that we can use. This is talking about reality. The Jewish people are in the world in order to defy the bad of the world and to perfect the good which is in the world. To sift out the negative things in the world and to stress the good things in the world. Who decides what's good and what's bad? That's the Torah. So we have two aspects. First of all, that God creates the world, and then he puts us in it and empowers us to fix it up. And then it's our actually fixing it up. So that God empowers us to fix it up. That God created the world all confused. That's the same name of Sag. That comes, says the Rebbe, from Tohu. That's the source of this confused world. That the Jews have the ability to fix it up. That's the name Ma, the numerical value of man. The Jews actually fixing it up. That's this name Ban, which is in the world. Name Ban. Okay, so basically we're going to say that that's these first three blessings. The first three blessings the first three blessings is that God gives us this power, Ma. The second of the blessing is that we entered into the land of Israel and that we can fix it up. That's like Sag, the confused world. We're in the world, we have a job. We're going to see. Let's see if we understand this, because it's a little bit complicated. That's why the third one is when we actually fix up the world. Actually doing it. That's this name Ban. 52. Actually fixing up the world. That's based on the idea, on the sentence that says it's better one moment of doing good deeds in this world than all of the world to come. In other words, to appreciate what is now. What is now. But what is now, taking the Torah into account, taking God into account. Not just feeling the presence of being right now and not thinking in the future too much and the past too much. That's certainly is a good thing. To a certain degree, it's a good thing. Mindfulness, that they call it. But we're talking about mindfulness with God's plan in mind. And mindfulness with God's plan in mind means that every single instant to try to see not just the life which is in every minute, but the godliness, the meaning, the godly meaning at every moment, the opportunity that we have to fix up the world. So just take a simple example. You are presented with a healthy meal. A healthy meal, according to all opinions, vegetables and fruits and things like that and others, right? So, but the fruits, they come from Orla. It's forbidden. So if you refrain from eating those fruits, as healthy as they are, and as beneficial as they are, and they're beneficial to the economy, and they're beneficial to this, but you don't eat them, because why? It's within the first 3 years of the growth of that tree, that fruit. So you've purified the world according to the Torah. You purified the world according to the Torah. That's pretty amazing. Or you put on a pair of tefillin. You have tefillin. A man puts on tefillin. There's absolutely no physical, emotional benefit whatsoever. Putting on tefillin. They put tefillin on in Auschwitz. Jews, it was under. If they got caught, they would get killed, right? But that's fixing up the world. That's fixing up the world. In other words, not to think about the results, not to think about what was, to think about what is right now. Where is my life coming from? Not just my life. Where is it coming from? So he says that's what the Rebbe wants us to be aware of, is the right now. That's going to be this third blessing. We're going to talk about it in a second. Okay, so the first blessing is when the manna came down, that the Jews made in the desert. Just the fact that they're Jews and that there's a world, they can fix up the world. That's the empowerment. The second blessing is when the Jews actually went into the land of Israel and they started plowing and they started working in the world. They started plowing, working on them. But the third is the actual results of it. Let's see if we get this right. It's a bit complicated, so I want to just give an introduction, and let's see how this comes out. So again, the first blessing is on the manna. The second blessing is on the land of Israel. The third blessing is on Jerusalem. And it's talking about different stages of our working in the world, fixing up the world, right? In a general way, in an actual way right now. Let's have a look. Ve'inyan HaTova. So it says, Eretz HaTova. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Enlarge. Okay, so what does it say in the Torah? Ve'achalta v'savata, you should eat and be satisfied. Uberachta et Hashem Elokecha ala oretz atova asher natan lach. So it says ve'achalta v'savata, that's when you eat and you're satisfied, then and you finished eating. Uberachta, that's the first blessing. Ala oretz, that's the second blessing. Hatova, that's Jerusalem. So that's Jerusalem. Okay. So what does it mean that Eretz Hatova? This is the third blessing, Bonei Yerushalayim, building Jerusalem. And we have to understand the Oretz, that what it says, that we made a blessing on the land of Israel, coming into the land of Israel. This is what we call spiritually, we call the lowest of the spiritual levels. That's called Malchut, God's kingship. That's the physical world. And Yerushalayim is also Malchut. It's also there's a spiritual Jerusalem that's called Malchut of Atzilut, but it ends up that they're both the same thing. The land of Israel comes from this source which is called Malchut of Atzilut. Malchut of Atzilut. A simple way we can say it is the reason why God is creating the world from speech, the reason why God's creating the world, that's contained in the land of Israel. The land of Israel is the connector between God and the world, to show the world that there's such a thing as God, and he's creating the world. He's creating the world for a purpose. That's the land of Israel. What's Jerusalem? Exactly the same thing. Maybe Jerusalem is a little holier but the land of Israel is called the Holy Land. Both of them are the aspect of Malchut of Atzilut. Atzilut is the highest of the spiritual worlds, if you want to call it. It's like pure godliness. And Malchut is the lowest aspect of pure godliness. That's the land of Israel. That's Jerusalem. So it's the same thing. So in order to understand this, we have to understand what it says also. Chaim, chen, the chesed. What does it mean? Life and grace. We also mentioned this in the blessing of the land of Israel. Should we look again for the blessing? Let's try this again. Let's try this. Here we go. 1 minute. Let me make a pause. Last time I did this pause, it was a disaster. 1 second. Pause recording. No, it didn't work. Did it work? I don't think it worked. Okay. Let's. I'm not gonna pause this. 1 second. Let's try to find it. Here we go. Let's see if I can find it here. What is this? What is this? No. Oh, here. Here. 1 minute. Yes. 1 minute. Let's see if this works. Hope it does. It worked yesterday. Oh, yes. Here it is. Here it is. Good. Oh, here we go. Good. Very good. This is what we got yesterday. Wonderful. So we're saying, yes, okay. So here's the first blessing after eating. Blessed are you, and your goodness, you give food to all flesh, etc. That's the first blessing. You give food for everyone. That Moses made this wording. Second, we offer thanks to you, God. That's the second blessing. And how does it end? It ends like this. Blessed are you, God, for the land of Israel and for the food. Third blessing is have mercy on Israel and on Jerusalem. Oh, on Jerusalem. Okay, so here in the second blessing, we talk about like this here. I'm sorry. Here, the favor and the kindness which you have graciously bestowed upon us. Okay, that's how they translate it in English. It says Allah, says on the favor and the kindness which you have graciously given us. Okay, so let's say this. We have to understand what is this Chaim v'chein, on Chaim and Chen, on life. Where is it? For the life and the favor, Chaim and Chen. What does this mean, Chaim and Chen? Oh, just so that you know what we're talking about. Here we go. Back to Likuti. So what is this Chaim and Chen that we're talking about also in the blessing of eating? Yuvan, this will be understood, Al Pi, according to Mashka, to what it says in the Zohar. It says on the second, Gamalatu Tov Velo Ra Kol Yamei Chayeha. Right, this is the last paragraph in the book of Proverbs. And it's also said in the nighttime by the blessing in the nighttime on Shabbat. On Shabbat. Eshet Chayil Miyim, so right. So it says, she does him good and not bad. Now, the reason this is called the woman of valor, the woman of valor of they say a holy woman, Eshet Chayil, a woman of valor, grace, whatever. Okay, that's talking about, of course, the woman in the house, the wife in the house. But the wife in the house, the wife, everything that's in this world is just a reflected on spiritual levels that are above. For instance, a wedding, when a man gets married to a woman, that has its spiritual source above, which is when God gave the Torah to the Jews. That was the wedding day between God and the world and between the Jewish people. That was a wedding day. Okay, so the same thing, the wife, that represents the land of Israel or Jerusalem, the receptacle of all blessings. So it says, the wife she gives him good and not bad all the days of her life. That's what King Solomon said, wisest man in the world, right? Now, who would say this to his wife? Just think 1 second. Saying to your wife, I am so happy that I'm married to you. You do good for me. You don't do any bad to me ever. What do you have to mention bad for? Just say, all you've ever done for me is good. All I've gotten from you is blessings. You're the best wife in the world. No, King Solomon puts in he's the wisest man in the world, right? Says, good, did you do good for me? A good wife does good, and she doesn't do any bad all of her life. If she does only good, so obviously she doesn't do bad. Okay. So what does it mean? Now, here we're talking about the Jewish people. And the Jewish people, they are the valorous wife. Let's see. What does it say in the Zohar? Zimnit tav. Sometimes it's zimnit tav velo ra. There is good and there's no bad. Why mention bad? Because the Ketiv, it says that when God created the world, he made Eitz Hadat Tov V'Ra. God made the tree of the connection to good or bad. The Tov Amiti, what is true good? Bezimnan de'inan yamei hashamayim naharin Allah. When God is revealed in the world, the days of heaven are shining. De'inan yamei chayah, that these are days of life. Begin because the Eitz HaChaim, the tree of life, right? Remember, there were two trees. God said, don't eat from either one of them. He said to Adam, don't eat from the tree of life and knowledge, and also from the tree of life also. It was forbidden for man to eat. It says, begin because the Eitz HaChaim, because the tree of life, Shadar L'Chaim, gives her life. Gives her life. Okay, so she avoids the tree of, she only takes the good from the tree of good and life, the tree of good and bad, only takes the good. And what does it mean, the days of her life? What does it mean? Lo ra kol yamei chayah, that's talking about the tree of life. Okay, what were the two trees that were in the middle of the Garden of Eden? Two trees. So there was a tree of the knowledge of good and bad, and the tree of life. So the tree of knowledge of good and bad, that's this world. That's this world. That man was put into the world to refine the world. The tree of life, that's pure life. That's pure godliness. There's no refining. That's like the plan, the goal of man. Like we've said so many times, like you go to a store and you buy a puzzle, and the puzzle is all mixed up. That's like the tree of good and life. That's true, tree of good and bad. And on the cover, you see the picture. That's like the tree of life. That's the ideal. There's no confusion there. Right? We're going to see that in some ways the tree of good and bad is higher than life. Higher than life. If you remember, we learned before about God said, I put in front of you the good and the life and the bad and death. And you should choose life. Remember, and the Rebbe said that good is higher than life. Right? Good, okay. You do it's known. The Yesh base beginners, there's two levels, man and mad. Man is our work from below. That's called feminine waters. And mad, that's what God gives us from above. That's called masculine waters. Mayin and duchrin. Man, this is what Malchut refines the physical world. That's called Bria Yetzir Nasiya, from Klipat Noga, from nature. Nature. All these terms are explained in the Tanya, but Klipat Noga is explained in the Tanya in the 7th chapter of the Tanya. Klipat Noga. Klipat Noga means nature. Nature. Klippa means that which covers over God. And there's 4 aspects of covering over God. 3 are called impure, and 1 is called Klipat Noga. It's neutral. It's neutral. It can be fixed up. So we come into the world, into the physical world, which is represented by Bria, Yetzir, and Asiya. The highest of the worlds is Atzilut. That's, so to speak, pure godliness. And Bria, Yetzir, and Asiya, that's already creation. And the lowest of the creation, that's Asiya. That's where we are. And we fix up here nature, Klipat Noga. Shubachin is Yesh V'davar Nifrad. This Klipat Noga is a separate thing. Seems to be separate from God. Liot Nichlal B'chin is Bittel. And why we're here in the world to fix it up. That's called Bittel Yesh. Remember, we talked about this in the last 2 days. That's the thing of the second blessing. Second blessing. Right? The first blessing is the Jewish people, how God powers us. The second blessing is how we come into the land of Israel in order to fix it up. Okay, but afterwards, God reacts. There's drawn down what's called Mayan Duchrin. There's what's called God's reaction, masculine waters. life from above. That's why God is always referred to in the masculine sense, because the male is the giver. That's from heaven giving. Shehu bebechinas shem ma. That's the name ma we said before. That's bittul amiti. Levarera, to refine man. Okay, so we said beforehand that the first blessing is what God gives us, and the second blessing is our work. So now we're talking again about what God gives us. So this is what God gives us after we work. After we work. First, God gives us a free gift, enabling us to work. That's like the manna that fell from heaven. That's God. Then we do the work in the world. But then after that, God reacts and gives us even a higher blessing. And until sheyuchlo be'elokus mamash. Then when the work we do in the world is with true inspiration. And then we can include things truly in godliness. In order to be totally unified with the Creator Himself, Atzilut. Yichud Elyon, an upper unity. That everything becomes totally one, the way it's supposed to be. The way it's supposed to be. That's Bittul Batzilut, Yichud Elyon. This is what's called the upper unity of God. Everything is totally one. Oneness of God. Okay, what happens when the world is totally one? Then it's like it was before Adam ate from the tree. When Adam ate from the tree, all of a sudden false egotism was introduced into the world, and energy was spent on the wrong places. People started worrying, and they started thinking about themselves, and they started getting selfish, and instead of serving the Creator. So ideally, it's supposed to be that we're in the world and we're serving the Creator. That's ideally. The ideal situation is not just we sit and we do nothing, that we serve the Creator, but it's a different type of a service. It's a service that man was supposed to have made before he ate from the tree of bad and death. Brought death into the world. Okay, so that's why we're in the world. So that which we're blessing after eating, this is like a microcosm of all creation. That God is creating everything so that we should fix it up. And there is a goal that the things can be ideal. When things are ideal, it's not that all of a sudden everything is just at rest and at peace and there's just oneness and we're just breathing in the one pure light, and that's all. That's also true. But when there's oneness, we feel more responsibility to the Creator, because the Creator is not part of the world, right? The Creator is totally above time, above space, but He's giving this perfection. Okay, so it says, and that's the reaction of God. Like it says, there be a new heavens and a new earth. It says Moshiach is going to bring that there's going to be a new heavens and a new earth and a new Torah. It's not going to be a new heavens and new earth. It's going to be the same heavens, the same earth, and there's certainly the same Torah. But we'll just feel the godliness in it. We'll feel our responsibility from everything will cry out to us, how important we are to serve God. Well, Mavur, this is also explained in another place, etc. Do you see? So, okay, 1 minute. Okay. For whom mi bechinas man, this comes from this level of man, mayin nukvin. But it's just a different type that mad, this masculine waters, comes down, mevarero. It gives a new type of refinement. Hainu lefisha shorsho gavoa yota, because its source is higher from sag. We said that sag, that's this level of tohu, that's the world. And sag comes from a panemius ak. We didn't talk about this yet. Ak is what's called Adam Kadmon. Adam Kadmon is the first original urge that God had to create the world. That's called Adam Kadmon. The whole basic plan of all time and being, etc., that's included in Ak. It's called Machshava Hagduma Da'ak, the first thought, above all of the worlds, above all the levels. So it says this level of working in the world, somehow or other comes, this man, this somehow or other comes from a higher level than anything else. In other words, now, what we do right now. That Masha'enkin, which is not the case, Mad, at this level of Ma and Dukrin, that is the help. This comes from the name of Ma, which we said this is the name of God of Ma. This masculine waters that God gives us from above to below, the results of how God reacts to what we do, this comes from the name of Ma, which Ma is a lower aspect of God, of working, of being able to refine the world. This is just a ray. Like it says, it's a Ba'ali Be'er, and from below to above. So it's almost the same thing. I'm trying to give an example here, but maybe the example is like this. And let's say you have there's painters, right? You have expert painters. So you take a person that doesn't know how to paint at all, and you give him paints. You give him the same palette with the same paints on it, and he draws a picture that looks terrible, right? And he takes a few lessons, it looks a little bit better. It takes a few more lessons, so now you can draw a little bit of perspective, and the things are in the right shape, and the eyes are fitting the nose, and you can see what's looks further back and looks. And then he says, so the pictures are bearable. You can look at the picture as bearable, right? If it's a picture that your son or your daughter made or your grandson, you might even put it up on the wall. The priest says, what is that picture? Oh, that's my grandson made it. It was you can look at it. But that's called refining. You're taking these colors, which mean nothing, the colors. And if you don't know what's going on, then the whole thing is confused. That's what happened when Adam ate from the tree. He made the world confused. Starting to work on the world, that's like taking lessons. All of a sudden, things the picture looks, acceptable, bearable. You can look at it. But once in a while, there comes a person who's a big expert at drawing, and you look at the picture. Oh, this is a nice picture. Wow, this is really something else. Look at that picture. That's really amazing. Like, of course, like I says, the beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. It depends on yourself. But then there's people who are like experts, geniuses, and you can see the genius in their picture. Genius in the picture, right? You look at a picture of who knows Rembrandt or something like that. You see the genius. You have to understand a little bit about painting, which I don't. But so you see its true genius. That's the whole thing. So it's something like this. We're talking about the world is like this aspect of Sag, and the fact that we come into Jerusalem, to Israel, and we work on the world, that's like learning. That's Ma. But that God comes and helps us to make the world, then that's like inspiration. Then things become perfected. Of course, the whole metaphor that I just made fell apart because a picture is something that becomes static and finished. And the world is never finished and static. The world, by its essence, is always moving, etc. It's just when the Jews do their work properly, then it's moving in a new type of harmony. And that's the thing of Jerusalem. That's the thing of Jerusalem. It says Yerushalem. Yerushalayim is Yerushalem, a complete awe of God, total awe, total fear of God. Zim nistab. That's when sometimes it's good. That's by means of what it said before. That sometimes it's good. Zim nistab. That's by means of refining the good from the tree of knowledge of good and bad. That's klipat noga. That the good, the physical world. That the good which we refine from the world, that comes from what we call sag. That's, let's say, to use my metaphor, which, I mean, you can use it with 1,000 grains of salt. That's like the person who's learning to paint. He's starting to put things together. Sag is like all the paints all scattered, right? The paint's all scattered. You haven't done anything with them. That's the world how it is after Adam ate from the tree. And now we refine it. We take only the good out of it. That's Sag, that's the physical world. And the physical world is really above the name of Ma, which we use to refine the world. In other words, somehow or other, the world is higher than man. That's what we said, remember in the Sikh of the Rebbe. That's why God, in the Torah, spends so much time talking about the world. On the first day, God made this of the world. The second day, he made that in the world. And the third day, he made this. Right? He made the trees, and he made the birds, and he made the animals, and he made the fish, and he made the stars, and he made the sky. And what are we talking about this? Why is it so interesting? Why does God spend those time? Then finally, on the last day, the sixth day, God made man. Oh, so it seems like man is not of that great importance. God doesn't spend so much time, at least in the creation of the world, talking about man. And then after that, there comes Shabbat. Shabbat is God. So it seems that the most important thing is the world. And after that, secondary importance is man. And the third importance is God. But he was the one, he came last. so to speak. God's day is the last day. How is that? So the Rebbe is saying, listen, the reason God did this is because what's the whole story of the Bible? The world. What's the whole story of the Torah? The world. God created a world. He created a world. And according to Chassidut, before that, there was no such thing as creation. There was no such thing as time. Right? This world, this is the beginning of everything. There was nothing before this world. There was no before. When God created the world, that began creation. That began existence. So the world is infinitely more important than we can possibly think. Good. Of course, it's God that created it. So God, of course, was before everything. But God is not a thing. God is not a thing. Right? When God started creating the world, then we could talk about the levels of godliness, the preparation of godliness before the tzimtzum, the higher than tzimtzum. But the most important thing is this physical world. And man is in here in order to fix up the world. Okay, we have absolutely no idea what we're talking about. I certainly don't, right? What exactly is hidden in the world that's so precious. But here the Rebbe is talking about it. And is saying that that's what it means. Sometimes it's good, namely by means of refining the good from the bad in the world, so it reveals a higher level of godliness, even higher than this level of ma, of Zer Anpin. By means of this is Zer Anpin, which is the physical world. The world goes up to level of what's called Atik. Now, Atik is even higher than this level of Ak. that's like essence of God. Atik Yomin, the inside of the crown of God. All right, so let's do this one more time. That's the thing, that sometimes it's good. We talked about the woman of valor in the Zohar. It says sometimes she does good, that by means that she refines the good from the tree of the knowledge of good and bad. That's Klippet Noga, that's the world. That the Tov, the good in the world, which becomes refined, its source comes from Sag. We said that's Tohu. That's how, and that's above this level of Ma, which is our power to refine the world. So the world is higher than our power to refine it. And Ma, that's another name for our power to refine. That's Zer Anpin, that's the emotions of God. But by means of us using this Ma, our power to refine the world, and unlocking the godliness which is in Sag, that's the world, by means of this Zer Anpin, which that's, again, our power to refine the world, that is elevated to the level of Atik, even higher. Which means that's like using our metaphor, is when the painter, right? So he has got all the paints. That's like this level of Sag. That's like the world, Tohu. And the painter has the talent to work on it. That's this level of Ma. Ma's the Gematria man. And working on it, actually doing it, that's Ban. That's the power to work on but by means of doing that, it reaches a higher level than even our abilities. That's like the genius, right? The genius. The person, I learn how to paint, I start painting, I take these paints which are mixed up and I use them and I start to learn how to paint and put them together. That's Ma. That's the ability. But if I reveal in this genius, all of a sudden I get the inspiration, then I'm taking the paints, which we said that's the level of Sag, and I'm working on it. That's called Ban. That's the level of Ban 52. By means of that, something new happens, a new genius, a new type of harmony. Then everything is elevated. Even my talents are elevated to this level of Atik. I'm just bringing this example. I mean, it's a pretty weak example, but I'm bringing it just to try to make sense of what the Rebbe is saying, that there's a goal to the world, and the goal to the world is to reach a level of true dynamic perfection and life, which is not revealed now and can only be revealed by us working on the world. So the whole name of this thing is the world, is the world. That what it says, she does good and not bad. Why not bad? Hainu she'en shum taruvos, namely, this is the world after it's perfected by us. There won't be any mixture at all and confusion of selfishness or false egotism, etc. This is talked about in the Tanya, and Tzadik V'Tovlo, in the 10th chapter of the Tanya. And look over there in chapter Yud. Okay, so the Rebbe is trying to tell us like this. The first blessing after eating, that's Moses giving us power to work on the world. The second blessing is talking about when the Jews went into the land of Israel. That's the world. That's the world. The third blessing is talking about by means of us working in the world, using the energy that we got from Moses to work in the world. That's the second blessing, is there comes a whole new level of perfection, and that's called Jerusalem. So it's done only by means of our works. Is the power to refine the world. This comes by our hard work, drawing down Zer Anpin, that we said that's this level of Ma, the inspiration from God, because Ish Darko Lichavosh, because this is the man, that's his way to, the way of man is to conquer. Ma, this aspect of Ma is the gematria of Adam, 45. And that's, in other words, we have the power, the inspiration to work in the world. This comes from a high level, which is called Chachmi Eloah, and etc. And that refines the world. But after the world is refined, right, to a certain degree, then there's a new level of mad, of mayin duchrim, a new blessing that comes down. And this new blessing that comes down, this is purifies the whole entire world in a new way. Let's just finish the Bazel Bazim in the in and Yamei Shamayim Naharin. That's what it means in the days that the heavens shine. Remember, we're quoting the Zohar that we started at the beginning. When do we say that there's total good? Only when godliness is revealed. That's what it means. The light, the days of her life. It says Ki Sahara Leisle Mergrame Klum, because the moon hasn't got any light or life of its own. That's like King David. King David, he was supposed to have been stillborn. He was supposed to be born still. He was too. King David came to fix up the whole world, and the world couldn't take a thing like that. So it said that they requested mercy on him, and he got life 70 years from Abraham, Isaac, and from Abraham and Yitzchak. He got life from them. 200, the 5 years from Abraham and years from this. And he also got another 70 years he got from Adam. Because Adam lived only 930 years. He should have lived 1,000 years, so he gave 70 years and explains why he got 70 years from these and 70 years from this, and he only lived for 70 years. It explained in a different place. But nevertheless, David HaMelech, he got his life. He had no life of his own. It's just drawn down from this Zer Anpin. That's like us coming into the world and fixing it up with this aspect of Ma. That's the Zer Anpin. And that eventually, when it's purified, this Ma, that's called the tree of life. That's called Chayim, Chayin, V'Chesed. That's what we're talking about when we're saying in this blessing on the earth. We talked about the second blessing, the Chayim, Chayin, V'Chesed, that God gives life, true life. So just to repeat what we just finished saying, right? That's why King David is the Mashiach. Mashiach is going to be the person that's going to inspire all of mankind to do the work on their own. That's this level of Ma, of Zer Anpin, we said, of Adam. That's the inspiration from above. And when we do the work on our own and fix the world up, then there's going to be a new inspiration of godliness. That's what it means. King David had nothing of his own. He was just here to inspire the world, to fix up the world. And that's what we're talking about when we make the blessing after eating, the first three blessings. As we'll talk about more, God willing, tomorrow. And now let us do Yom Yom, Devar Malchut, sorry.